Okay, so this video is about fill and stroke. Two different things you have to understand about how a path object is kind of the anatomy of it. So let's go over into our tool thing and let's look at over here. Now if I just hold this down right here, you'll see there's all these shapes. We're just going to pick the rectangle tool. So now to create a perfect rectangle, if I just drag out, I can make, any kind of rectangle. But if I want to make a perfect square, if I hold shift, right, see, this constrains it. So let's hold shift, and there it is. And by default, I think you will have drawn, because I've been using my Illustrator a lot, right? You will have pretty much drawn this right here. So we have a object, and it has a fill that is white, and I can prove it's white. I can go over here and change it, right, just to change colors so you can see that, right? So what you have to know is that there's a difference between the thing that's outside of it and the thing that's inside of it, and you'll see that as we draw things. And the stroke, right here is these palettes. Whichever one you click on and is in front is the one you would be operating on. So I went up here in the palette to the colors. Now we're going to work in black and white for the whole Studio One. So whenever you see CMYK colors, if you use this hamburger and change it to grayscale, that will give us just from white to black to play with. So I'm going to go click on this, and obviously every object I have to go do that to. I can go ahead and change my stroke. There's also this little arrows here where I can go ahead and flip this around. Whoops, I have to have it selected. Flip it around. And so now this has a white stroke, and you can't really see the white stroke. This right here, this little non-symbol, it means to have no fill or stroke, just transparency. So if I click that, that gets rid of it. And notice that the thing got a little bit bigger. So really, I was going to have you just draw that. Use Option because you can make a thing. Now I also hold Shift to keep it perfectly across from it. And then we change it to no stroke by saying no stroke here. Whoops. Click on this. Now you see, I usually like to use this. You can also double click on this. I find it a little harder to use, but if you go all the way down to the bottom left, you'll get perfect black, and there it is. So that's stroke and that's fill. So some more complicated things about stroke and fill while we're talking about it is, let's say I was using the pen tool and I was drawing this object. Notice how it's getting filled even though this object isn't closed all the way. That's how a fill will work. And I could change that to just having the stroke, and then it has no fill there. One last confusing thing about stroke and fill is this thing about how things resize. So we'll get to these later, but let's say I have this 4-point stroke right here, and I go to it and I just make this object bigger. It's still 4 points, and that may not be what you want. You may want the stroke to proportionally get bigger with the object. So if I just click on my artboard, you'll see in the properties this scale, strokes, and effects. So if I click this now and I go to this and I bring this up, notice how the stroke has gotten proportionally bigger to me making the object bigger. So that's fill and stroke, really important to understand. For right now, most of the shapes we're going to use, we're not going to use any strokes until we start drawing lines and doing things like that.